Yeah, but again, you mentioned a good point. We don't need microchips. Look at what China's doing with their facial recognition. I mean, let's pull up the article I sent you guys, because we're finding out that Huawei tested artificial intelligence software that could recognize people if they were Uyghur minorities and then immediately called the police on them. I mean, there's...
Look at this. Yeah. We have it from the Washington Post.
They have a face scanning system.
Is that how you say that, Uyghur?
Huawei. Yeah. Huawei tested AI software that could recognize Uyghur minorities and alert police.
Amazing.
For those that don't know, China is currently operating concentration camps with 1 million Uyghur Muslims detained. The Chinese government is using them as cheap labor and harvesting their organs. Yep. Being able to use facial recognition to identify them is beyond what we have ever... In all the nightmare dystopia movies we have, people put their hoods up and they run and they hide and they see the cop go by and they like duck their head. Guess what? In this world, there's going to be cameras everywhere, and they're just going to know where you are.
And this is the same country influencing our politicians. This is the same country
bragging that Joe Biden is compromised,
financing the sons of politicians, sending out spies that help politicians get elected here, named Fang Fang, that are Chinese professional geisha honeypots.
We're in trouble.
They're talking about microwaving weapons, gene splicing super soldiers. I mean, we're in a predicament here that's really major.
They're
here.
like
and there's another article here.
But we are the... See, I think what makes them different from... So, you're looking at it from the standpoint of their boundaries, right? So that's a country and they're acting as a sovereign and they're doing...
No. They have international...
No, but what I'm saying is that it could just as well be anywhere. What we're looking at is the power people that are in charge, the people that are controlling, let's say, the technology, that are controlling all the corporate resources, right? Mm-hmm. They don't really know nationality, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. Right.
Yeah.
So, to me, I don't care if my oligarchs are Chinese, Russian, or American. It doesn't matter.
This is a really important point. As we just noted with the Pope story, it's operating a lot in China. But the interests are these massive corporations,
international globalists.
That's what I'm saying. So when and what concerns me when you talk about it in terms of the Chinese,
are we turning into Alex Jones' show?
Well, no.
Globalists.
But when you say things like the Chinese, it almost puts like a blame on that it's China, and it's sort of like when Trump calls it the China virus,
right? It's the Kung flu. To be correct here,
but I think that it almost gives this perception of that it really has to do with their nation, and I don't think that. I think it's bigger than that.
Well,
and I don't
the
think
people, and I think I don't know if it was you who clarified this, but it's the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah. Okay,
it is.
And that's,
yeah,
and I
very
think
different.
That is the thing. And when you say China, I think a lot of people just think, oh, it's Chinese.
No,
and people.
Well, when you look at the Uyghur Muslim concentration camps, there's even reports that many companies like Nike and Apple benefit off of that human slave labor.
Remember when Mulan, where the Disney Plus did the movie, and they thanked this paramilitary group that is enslaving people?
Yes. So that is in charge of watching the Uyghur Muslims.
Yes. Well, I call them eye slaves. Aren't they called eye slaves, the people that make the iPhones?
And they have the suicide nets outside of the factories. They have suicide nets,
and they moved their factory. Their factory used to be in the city, and then enough people were protesting it and not liking it, so then they moved out into like the middle of nowhere, China, and there's a compound. That's where the eye slaves are.
Yeah.
Man, it's a creepy world we live in. But you know what the crazy thing is? We all are sitting here basking in the benefits of this horrifying slave labor out of these camps and these factories.
Yeah, but it happens here. We just call it prison.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I remember when Kanye said something about repealing the 13th Amendment? Do you remember that?
I don't listen to Kanye.
Well, so let me try
to avoid Kanye.
Let me make sure I have this.
I think he's disturbed. And I also am not into celebrities that are rich for being famous and famous for being rich.
I understand your point.
No. Kanye is the greatest musician of this or any generation. That's why I'm kidding.
Yeah. No, I know.
He's good. I think he makes some good music.
Whatever. Stay in your lane.
Right. But I bring this up because he tweeted that we should abolish the 13th, and everyone started going nuts. And what he meant was, though, the 13th Amendment allows slavery if you're convicted of a crime.
Yep.
So Kamala Harris, she kept people in past their terms to use them as cheap labor, but not just that, to fight fires. You're going to risk your life for $1 an hour, and we're not letting you leave because we want you to be our
They technically give them shortened time, but
they were supposed to be already out.
Yeah.
It's
just probation. It's crazy, and it's obviously it's slavery. This is slavery. And and he's right. The 13th Amendment does that. That is the one thing. That clause is what has allowed our corrections institution to run away with what it has. Like that clause has been that. But I mean, obviously abolishing the 13th Amendment would not be a good idea. Otherwise,
get rid of that prison provision.
But no, it's true. And that has allowed this to go on for as long as it has.
We need prison reform. We in this country, we treat prison like an opportunity for big business. And that's because of the 13th Amendment.
It's a profit motive. We need to not have a profit motive.
It's because of too much government and too much laws and too many bureaucrats just making things up to satisfy their imaginable public. Meanwhile, they're working for the corporations. So that's the problem.
I remember like growing up, the right was very much like the government is a problem, the corporations are fine, and the left was like the corporations are the problem, the government is fine. And it's kind of like, it's bad people exploiting any kind of structured system, and they're doing a revolving door between each other to make money and exploit us.
Yep.
And
the lobbies.
You can a corporation. Look, you can have a small business as a corporation.
Yeah.
And you can have a government of a small town of 2,000 people, and everyone's very happy.
Now, when we say corporate, we're talking the big people.
Exactly.
Okay. I mean, yes, technically, my little GenCore is a corporation. We're not exploiting the people, right? So no, we're talking about the big ones.
And when we say government, we mean the revolving door policies of the military-industrial complex and big business.
The prison-industrial complex, the big pharma-industrial complex, we could keep going. But I do think there's a big agenda to keep people divided, keep people fighting each other. That's why there's a meme of libertarians beating up other libertarians and laughing at each other.
True.
And, even though me and you disagree, like I got micro-triggered when you say collectivism.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm messing with you. I'm joking. I'm being facetious.
Okay, because I could clarify what I mean.
No. I'm being very facetious.
I'm not a communist.
I know. I'm being very facetious. I always believe in decentralization, but I believe it's more productive if we could actually sit down and listen to each other and learn from each other rather than just try to win an internet argument or try to be better than each other. And that's why, I thank you for coming here and talking to us, because I think it's important to reach out to all the disenfranchised people and say, hey, man, enough is enough. Let's all come together and look at the wrongdoings and evils.
We have a lot more that we agree on that we don't.
Exactly.
We do.
There's a big illusion to make us not understand that.
Yeah.
So we were talking about Watchmen a couple times in the past few episodes. Are you familiar with the graphic novel or the movie Watchmen?
Okay, I'm married. I was the original Penny. You know Penny from Big Bang Theory?
No.
You've never watched the Big Bang
Bang
Theory?
Big Bang Theory.
Okay, well, it's cheesy, but she's like this one girl that's always in the comic book store, and the guy, right. And so when I started dating my husband, he collects comics. Like, he's obsessed with comics. So I was one of those girls that would walk into the comic book store, and all the guys were like, what is she doing in here? Like the crazy. So no, I'm very familiar with The Watchmen. The movie was horrible, though. Can I say that?
I like the movie.
Oh, no.
The graphic novel is like a masterpiece.
With the exception of what was it, Billy Kudrup naked? I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that
in the director's cut, they show it all.
Okay, see, now that made it worthwhile. But no, I mean, I just didn't.
So, but you know how like they created in the graphic novel the alien and fake alien invasion?
Yeah.
Joe Biden could be that alien invasion.
You're assuming that there's a there. You're assuming that there's something in there.
Of Joe Biden?
Well, yeah.
No, like, that's what I mean. He's literally like a mannequin standing. Like he's a scare populist.
Did you see the little video, Weekend at Biden's? Have you seen this thing
yes,
that somebody made?
I did. It was beautiful. It was amazing.
But no. But he's a scare populist. They put him. They strung him up on a little post, and all the left and the right populists are going like looking at him. Like he's bad. Maybe this will be something that unites.
Are you saying you think Biden's the great unifier?
Yeah, well, I mean, jokingly, whether he realizes it or not.
By default.
He's the hapless.
He is.
And I think he's crooked, but also.
Okay, but I think they're all crooked.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
this is, and that's the thing, when you want to sit there and talk about like Hunter Biden and all that, please don't get started on like Trump's family and Trump's kids. It's like, you're talking about an entire group of people that by definition are filthy to be where they are. And we're not in that group. So it's kind of like, that's just splitting hairs.
I think Joe Biden is just like almost nothing.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah. It's a shell.
But
he's a vapid shell.
He's there, and the regular people who are, paying attention, starting to wake up and get active to these exploitation, they see him standing there in the window of the White House, just on his post, not really doing anything, and they go like, like something's wrong here. Like we got to do something. It's getting people active.
Yeah.
So I think, it's interesting how, aside from the weird woke left, I guess, and they're often in alignment with establishment, the media, the corporations. They think they're the resistance or whatever. I don't know what you call the non-woke left, but there's like anti-war progressives. They get censored all the time, and they're very much.
I'm the non-woke left.
But like the Trump supporters hate war. There was I think it's the American.
He campaigned on that.
against war, Trump?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. And so now Trump is like, I think one of the reasons he really wants to pull the troops out of Afghanistan is because he wants to get as much support from regular people as possible who hate war. So he's like, I'm going to make it happen. But everybody hates war. Like Luke was saying earlier in the show, every president has campaigned on it because it's popular. People hate it. It's a waste of our energy. I always say this. Why are we allocating so much money to any kind of foreign excursion or intervention when that money could be allocated to Flint, fixing the pipes?
That's not a priority.
It's the
or just not
craziest thing.
Because that doesn't financially benefit the people in charge, and the military does.
Building roads and creating economic opportunity in these other countries that make money for big corporations and internationalists is good. Making sure that American citizens are benefiting from our community, which guarantees them clean water and not getting Legionnaire's disease, well, that they don't care about.
But have to talk about the collective then. When we talk about clean water, we have to talk about what's in the best interest of the collective.
The community.
Well, that's what I mean when I say collective.
Yeah.
Right. You come together as a society to have certain benefits, right?
I think we need to come together as disenfranchised people. And then after that, if we are successful, you go on and do your thing how you want to do it in your place. I'll do it in my place.
But that's
and
already benefiting from the collective.
And we could have a decentralization, and we could have a commune that does it in a communistic way, and we could have a capitalistic utopia that does it their own way. Just like that video game that we talked about a couple days ago.
Didn't Ron Paul say this? It was a quote where he said that in this system, you're free to create your own socialist community.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, Chaz, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I put it this way. The reason why I really liked Ron Paul, there were a lot of, core issues relating to like religion and stuff I didn't agree with. But I remember when I was younger, I thought about it. I was like, if he had his way and he created his, libertarian type society, I could have my more left-leaning community with no one bothering us.
Yeah.
We can go do our thing.
Unless your community's poisoning Earth's water and destroying the air supply.
No, but we were the hippies. Like I worked for Greenpeace. We're the people who were mad about that, and so we were like, we wanted to have our space that would protect and isolate, and isolate in a sense where it's like, don't come here, don't mess with our our clean water and air. This is our. But you can have that in a more libertarian society.
Well, the libertarian idea is mainly let be and be as you want.
Yes.
And as long as you're not forcing other individuals under the threat of violence to do something, we're okay.
But I always come to that problem of like, I've had conversations with right anarchists or whatever. What happens if I've got a stream for my community and then a mile downstream some dude starts pooping in it?
Yeah.
That's like causing sickness and illness to my community.
Well, you need to know if they subscribe to the common law flow of water, or if they've got what's called riparian rights, and it depends on where you live on the river. And
can you buy water? Can you own it?
You can. Certain states have what's called riparian rights, which means that the person at the source is basically in charge of what happens to what goes downstream, right? But then some states have it where you are in charge of what the water is behind your own property. So it depends on the state. It's state laws.
It's in my benefit to work out my problems with my neighbors accordingly and in a peaceful manner. And I'd rather have that problem than have the military-industrial complex creating the worst humanitarian crisis in Yemen right now.
No, I agree with
you. So if you have a choice right now, I'll argue with my neighbor about where to poop. Sure, I'll do that gladly any day if it doesn't mean bombing the crap out of innocent people all over the world. What happens to the
guy's like, I'll poop wherever I want?
Well, there's different ways of defending yourself and dealing with those problems and situations, but obviously being a sovereign individual,
I would go 1 mile upstream from him and start pooping in his water.
Gosh. Well, and that's ultimately the problem with this kind of law.
Yeah, right.
Is that there's no end. It's like leapfrog. Like you just keep moving up, and it's.
That's why we need collectivism. Ultimately, this
I
one
disagree.
world.
No.
Dude, if you just let people go start their community
the fellow hippie
with no laws, and they can go pollute the air at will.
You got to clarify that though.
And you just said, you're joking, but you go over there with your gun and you got to deal with it somehow.
But you got to clarify.
They got to deal with you somehow.
You got to clarify what collectivism is, because what happens if two collectives start shooting at each other? You got war.
Then they're not being collective together.
They're not. No.
When we speak of the collective, I'm talking about whatever it is substance that we're all paying taxes to. That's the collective.
Yeah. One of the biggest arguments against anarchism or libertarianism is that a bunch of crazy warmongers are going to take over. Well, look what happens now. Look at the system that we have now. So I would think there would be less harm. I would think there would be less problems once we decentralize power and we don't have psychopaths with nuclear weapons that essentially start wars for profit.
But who's to say that the decentralized communities wouldn't build nuclear weapons?
Yeah, they might build crazier weapons, actually. No joke, because the regulations would be extremely different. So
Do they have the resources? Do they have the money?
Without a centralized force, it would be very difficult.
No. One of the reasons why the U.S. accelerated in a lot of crazy technology was because of a lack of understanding and regulation. So you had people doing crazy radioactive experiments. So the government creates this overarching lockdown, like doing research on LSD. The whole government's locked it down. If you had disparate pockets of collectives, there could be one place where they're like, you're free to do whatever you want in that regard. Another place saying you can't do that.
That's like states.
We already have that with states.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, like the federal government has locked down a lot of specific things.
Well, they lock it down when it doesn't benefit them financially, or they can't gain control over it.
We could still have a mutual defense agreement with all the different states, but I believe that individuals should determine how they want to live their lives. And I think us getting more involved in local issues, local community politics is the way to do it. And then when we have this big over-encompassing federal government, we have to limit that as much as we can, but we could still have a national defense, and we could still live under the rules of anarchy or libertarianism or socialism or communism, depending on the community that determines what's right for them and their particular circumstance. Because again, the biggest minority is the individual. That's the one that we think we should always look out for over anyone else.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.